Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Male. Today I get to interview Isaac. So Isaac, welcome man.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So Isaac, can you tell us what your full type is?
Right, so I was typed as audio FESI blast play sleep consume. That's MF, and yeah, so it's interesting. This was not what I was expecting. Though it's been about a week and a half maybe since I got my type back, so I've had enough time to sort of sleep process and come to terms with my fate, so to speak.
So you are our first ESFJ male. You are extremely, like, rare is not even the word. Like, you're the one and only.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Like being the super rare, ESFJ male in the op system.
I mean, in my mind, the obvious joke is like I first got into personality theory thinking that I was an INFJ,
Yeah.
which is the super snowflake type, and now I am the only of the ESFJs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I couldn't dodge that one.
You got exactly what you were looking for, just a different type, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's go over your parts and kind of talk about how you personally experience them. And
Okay.
if something is not clear, feel free to just ask me. I can more than happy to clarify for you. So let's start with the blast first. You are Savior SF Blast, and you have feminine extrovert feeling and masculine introvert sensing. So how do you experience your SF Blast?
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where so my understanding of blast is that it sort of plays multiple functions, and one of them is to share information, and the other is to sort of lead. But it serves many functions. It's like there's a lot contained in the system. But I mean, any opportunity that I get to train anybody on anything or teach anybody anything is like the most exciting thing. And now that it's clear, now that I know I have double activated Savior Blast at the top.
Right.
I mean, that makes sense, right? So when we get new people in and I get to train them on something, it's like, yes. And this is the masculine SI, right? Like I want to punch things.
Yeah.
I want to punch things and help people, I guess. That's audio. I don't know.
Yeah. So SF Blast is also trying to tell the tribe what is the social etiquette when you go to like a social situation. So do you find yourself doing that a lot, like telling people, okay, this is, we're in this situation. Like I'll give you an example. I have a friend which I think is an ESFJ, and he was introducing me to his coworker who is gay. And he told me, don't use any words that could offend this guy. I'm like, what? Why would I do that? But but he felt responsible to tell me upfront, how I should behave in this social interaction with this guy. I mean, it went well, perfectly fine. I'm a double decider, so like obviously, it's gonna be easy. But he seems to do that to me every time I meet him. It's like when I'm going to a new social situation with him, he'll tell me first what the social etiquette is. So do you find yourself doing that, like to people?
Yeah, not so much. I actually in social situations I kind of take a more passive role. Like if it's obvious, if I really feel the need to protect somebody, I'll say like, hey, this person identifies as this. You are a person who is vocally against this thing that I know that they care about. So please stay away from this topic.
Right.
But like in the actual conversation, I don't like speak up and tell people to stop. Because that results in backlash usually.
Okay.
Like in high school, I used to do this because in choir class, people were always, in the back, talking when the choir director was trying to get us to learn. And so as a 16-year-old me, I would turn around and go yell at the people back behind you because I wanted us to all be able to engage in the SFFE experience. And they were not allowing it to happen. So I was like, stop. I kind of stopped doing that because the more you sort of do that, the more you offend everybody, and then you get like lots of labels on you. And so I think the feminine FE is more afraid of making enemies than it desires to enforce the social order in some sense. I think maybe masculine FE would be better at that, though that's just a guess.
Yeah, I think you're spot on what you said, where yeah, you, as a feminine, extrovert feeling, you're not likely to, control the tribe in what their social behavior should be like. Although you might guide them, you see yourself guiding them, kind of like a small, like friendly nudge, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if the conversation is going weird, I definitely see it as my responsibility to kind of bring up something tangential to steer the conversation away. Um, yeah, so I do try to sort of protect people in that sense, just by trying to guide the conversation away from the trigger, whatever it happens to be.
And
Yeah.
with the extrovert feeling in a feminine state, would you say that harmony is very important to you? Like conflict is something that you try to either avoid or diffuse should it happen?
Yeah, I don't like conflict. I don't like confrontation. I historically I've sort of just allowed people to be however confrontational, hostile they want to be, and then my way of combating that is to just choose who I allow myself to be exposed to. Uh, like I deliberately hang out with people who are nice people. I know they're good. They're not gonna like push me around, because I don't like to step forward and say, tell people what to do. So yeah, I guess my way of enforcing boundaries and enforcing harmony is by choosing who is in the group.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense to me with some of my ESFJ friends who, purposely leave certain groups that is more, they kind of see us that, more toxic, I guess. So you have
Yeah.
masculine introverted sensing, and masculine introverted sensing is it's kind of like a list, you have like a list of things to do, or do you find yourself to be like a big reporter list guy, with like, step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, do this kind of deal?
Yeah, I mean, so that one is interesting. I do that when it gets to be too much for me to handle in my own mind. I take a lot of notes. All my knowledge is probably in my notes. I don't know a lot of information like just at the front of my mind. Uh, and so if I need to remember something, it's got to be written down, or I'm not. If it gets to be too much, um, but I don't use a planner. I kind of just remember all my appointments. And I've told people this before, and they're like baffled. Like, why don't you, like, they've been using a calendar, or they've been using a planner their entire life. If they don't write it down in the planner, they will forget. But for some reason, I'm really good with appointments. I'm really good with time. I know where I'm supposed to be when, and I don't usually need to write anything down to remember where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Uh, and and so it's more like a mental list. It's a
Yeah.
mental checklist. Um, and then for things that are like months down the line, I'll put those on my calendar. Um, but yeah, only if it's far enough away that I'll definitely forget.
Yeah, that's the power of masculine infrared sensing. Your memory is going to be super, super good, super sharp. Um, I can
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
relate to that, even though it's fourth for me, because I do remember which credit card that I have that's coming up where I have to pay off the balance. So I don't have to write it down. I just know it. So I can relate to your story when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Um, Going back again to SF Blast, do you like to also guide people when it comes to their fashion sense? We're like, hey, you would look good if you wore this. Like do you do that kind of stuff?
Oh no, that's like that was the most surprising thing to me about being SF savior, is that I think it maybe has to do with consume last. I'm not sure, but I wear the same like 5 shirts. I have 5 shirts, and I wear them just one day after another.
Okay.
Uh, and it's yeah, fashion is not my thing. Weirdly, I always wanted to get better at it. I do have I am curious about people's hairstyles. Like, I pay attention to people's hair.
Yeah.
Um, I put like, people say like the EJs have like a mane, and I'm definitely like trying to grow out the mane currently.
Okay.
But hair is basically the extent of how much I actively think about fashion. So that was a surprise to me.
You know what, man? I'm talking to you now, and you look like the Prime Minister of Canada. I don't know if you've seen Justin Trudeau.
Do I?
Have you ever gotten
Oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah, you look like him, and he does do the SF blast, and NF play. Yeah, you can look him up, but yeah, dude, you look like him. Like, what the hell? Like, Um, do you see his picture? I
Yeah,
see.
that's true.
Yeah. I wonder if he's
Yeah,
an
I
ESFJ
see him.
now.
Yeah, he does
Yeah,
look like me.
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there you go. I wonder if he's an ESFJ now talking to you,
Huh.
talking to you. I'm like, because he does. I noticed him like, uh, they had a like a convention, and someone said the word mankind, and he corrected it and said, no, it's not mankind, it's people kind. You know, and it's like trying to be like politically correct, you know, with the SF and stuff. So,
Right.
so I'm wondering. I'm like, oh, is that SF? That sounds like
Yeah.
SF plus, you know. Um, so let's talk, and he also uses like a lot of NF play for what I can see. So let's talk about your NF play, since that's your second savior, right? So how
Yeah.
do you use your NF play? Like, do you like to talk about like making the world a better place, and you know, we're in this together? Like, do you like to use those kind of words, for example?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that the world would be a better place if we were all like, more cooperative. And I I generally think that mankind is going to do okay. I generally am optimistic. And I like to just be as silly as other people will allow. I mean, and if yeah, like I I sort of associate the NF blast with, or the NF play with, like just carrying a conversation like to whatever insane place that it feels like going. It's like improv. Um, and it's like, if somebody is just wanting to have a really silly discussion, that's easy to maintain, and I'm happy to be as imaginative as I want. I'm not gonna stop you and say, like, cars can't fly, people don't breathe underwater. uh yeah. So I like people who are kind of over the top, um because the more over the top they are and the more like energetic they are, the more I'm allowed to be energetic and over the top, and that's kind of fun. So yeah, the play is odd. I thought it was a demon initially for me because I'm usually pretty quiet. My play matches other people's play. Um, it's like I'm constantly kind of trying to mirror everybody, and that's happening unconsciously. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of just energy matching, energy mirroring of other people to be however they are. And so that's sort of how I experience the NF play to some extent. Maybe that's not what that is, but um, maybe that's just the feminine FE. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, it could be the feminine FE, trying to mirror the vibe of the tribe. So if the tribe is low energy, then you're low energy. If the tribe is hyper, like let's say you're, on a night out and everyone's like energetic and hyper, then you're probably going to be like over the top as well. But then when the energy goes down, so you kind of go with the flow of what
Yeah.
the tribe is currently at, you know. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so um,
And I if yeah, yeah, that's exactly it.
So because you play above sleep, you will have a tendency to expend your energy for the tribe. So do you see yourself like being that like reliable friend? Like if someone needs help, you're kind of like the guy that, can be, that everyone can rely on to be there for them, would you say?
Uh at the risk of sounding like I'm complimenting myself, yes. I think it's kind of frustrating actually, seeing how uncommitted some people can be at just being there. Like I I like, my friends don't have to ask me twice. They like, I'm just there. Like I was helping my friend move yesterday. Uh she got three people to help her move, and after a couple of hours the other two left, and I was like, we're not done. I'm still here. Like, let's keep going. Let's get the whole thing done. Um and like, if they want to go hiking and I am exhausted, like I only had 4 hours of sleep, it's like, okay, let's go. We're gonna do this thing because you asked me to, and it's fun because I want to spend time with you, so let's go. It's like, go go go. Yeah, I mean, because I would really appreciate if my friends were that level of available for me, And so I just try to be as available as possible. And at one point, actually, I was resentful of that because I could tell that not everybody else was willing to reciprocate that.
Right.
But now that I know that's just my type, it's like, okay, I'll just expend the energy. It's fine. That's just what I'm like. Fine. Oh, well.
So you said that you felt resentful that, people were not as committed. But there's different levels to this, right? Like, for example, your friend was moving, so there's you, who's a super reliable guy, and then there's like the two other friends who left 2 hours early, but they still showed up because maybe that other friend also asked other people and they just flat out said no and made the excuse not to show up, right? So would you say there
Yeah.
is like at least those other two friends, at least they showed up even though they didn't finish the whole thing? Would you say that they still get some credit? you know
Yeah. So this is the thing, like the single decider thing plus FE is very weird because of course I'm grateful to them. Of course they're good friends for being there.
Yeah.
But then in addition to that, it's like the FE at the top is like FE is God, and anyone who doesn't think FE is God is somehow not doing enough. Uh, but I can't blame them because it's feminine FE. Like, how am I able to have feminine FE savior, but also think other people are not doing enough? There's like a judgmental versus harmony.
Right.
What's the balance between judgmental and harmony? I don't understand. It's really difficult. Hard to understand.
Yeah, because when you're telling me your story right now of moving, helping your friend move, I also thought back to my friends who also helped me move. And yeah, you know what? It is the ESFJs that, you know, that was there for me, for the duration of time. But it wasn't just them though. It was other friends as well. Although the other friends, some of them either came late or left early. But for me, from my perspective as a double decider, I was just grateful that, for anyone who showed up, I was grateful for. Because there's people who said no, just plain out, or just made an excuse, which is even worse. Because it's kind of interesting to see your point of view. When it comes to that, where it's like it's kind of extreme. Not saying it's bad or not. I'm just saying it's a little bit like it's like, yeah, it's either all in or nothing. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Hearing that.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely what it's like. It's the if I'm not careful, it's all or nothing. So I have to be very careful to respect the FE enough to give people credit where it's due,
Right.
and not just let the single deciderness go off the rails.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, it's just an interesting conversation because, like for me, I'm like, yeah, those guys definitely deserve credit. They showed up, right? Because other people, they were a jerk to
Yeah.
make excuses. So, anyhow, um, let's move on to your sleep next. You have double masculine sleep, which I
Mhm.
think is very interesting. And your sleep is ST, so it's like very reporter like. And David Shan also says that ST sleep is what works for you. And people with ST in a demon state, they tend to have trouble doing things for themselves. So would you say you have trouble doing things for yourself? I mean, it's double masculine though, so it has like an extra benefit to it. So how do you experience that? It's a weird combination of
Yeah.
modalities and animal stack order.
Right. Yeah. This is one of the more interesting things because I'm in a technical career, so I'm a grad student in physics, and so I work in a lab with a lot of equipment, machinery, and we're doing, you know, very delicate procedures with expensive equipment, and it's easy to break stuff. So, and when you do break stuff, it costs a lot of money. So you have to be really very careful. And so I feel like actually when I'm in the lab, I'm only using ST sleep. It's a very meditative, rigid kind of thought process. Uh, there's some blast in there also because, I'm working with my friends, the other people in the lab, and so there's a lot of communication happening. But in terms of actually doing the experiments, it's very much cold, calculated, logical. Do the steps, do it right, don't mess it up. Uh, uh, yeah, and make sure you get it right because if you mess up one thing, you've lost a day worth of work, and then everybody's gonna make you do it again. So, uh, Yeah, that was odd as well. One of the reasons why I thought I was savior sleep was because of the career choice that I made. Because David Shan also said that you don't like to do your demons generally for very long at a time. But I chose a career where I have to use my demons. So it's kind of strange. Like, but the ST sleep is very powerful. Um, it's it's also hard on it's like harsh. It's internally harsh. So in my mind, it's very much like you have to do the difficult thing. You have to make the difficult choice. It's on me. All the responsibility is on me to do everything right. And even though that's a demon, it's still activated, I suppose. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, but I have tons of questions for you with SE sleep. Like this is gonna be the one I'm gonna. I have tons of question marks in my head for. Um, the first one is with ST sleep, especially in a double masculine state. Would you say you can be difficult to work with because of that? Like, because you're gonna be quite rigid the moment you tap into that stuff. Like you become more like a like a drill sergeant. Like it must be this way or the highway. Like it must be done this certain way. Like there's no other way. This is the only way.
Yeah, I do notice a little bit of that. I try so hard not to be harsh with people because I also teach a class, and when I'm criticizing other people's work, like when I'm grading or if it's in class and I'm telling them, hey, this thing here, this isn't quite right. It's like it's so delicate. It's like walking on glass because my inner world is just like, no, that's wrong. That's so wrong.
Yeah.
Why did you write it this way?
Yeah.
No, you can't do this. But then extrovertedly, it's just like, be as soft as possible. Don't hurt this person's feelings. How do you explain it in a way where it makes them seem like they were right about something?
Yeah.
Make it seem like they were right about something, and then tell them why they're wrong. Because if I'm not very careful, it does come across as quite harsh, and I worry about scaring people away from this topic. And that's like the last thing I want to do. I want to inspire people if possible, and I don't want to just tell them why they're wrong to their face.
My other question about ST sleep is I noticed that with ESFJs, there's this strange phenomena that I'm noticing where you a lot of ESFJs they don't like to ask for help. Like they want to be able to do it themselves. What's happening there? Like what is that the ST sleep where you're like, I'm able to do this myself? Is it like an ego thing or is it just because of the animal stack, or the functions together where it's like, ST is like, I'm able to do it myself for me. It's like ST sleep, right? It's inside, right? So do you resonate with that statement? Like do you not like asking people for help and stuff?
That is me 100%. I hate asking for help. I think it is. I think it is ST sleep because I think the TI wants to do it itself. Like I I was thinking about this because we talked about the example of me helping my friend move.
Right.
When I move, I don't ask for help. I do it all myself until it gets to the place where I literally physically cannot do it with myself. If I literally need more than two hands to do it, I will ask one person for help.
Okay.
And then I'll pay them, I'll buy them lunch. But all the other stuff, all the boxes, I do it all myself. And why is that? I don't know why. It's interesting though, because I feel like, yeah, the TE wants to collaborate on making the thing work.
Right.
And it seems like that is very much like a let's all do this together because that's what makes sense. It's more convenient for everybody. Not everybody has to be the one pulling the entire load.
Right.
But why do I want to do it all myself? I wouldn't say it's an ego thing. I would say that I'm partially afraid of other people feeling like I owe them something that I have not repaid. Um, I feel much more comfortable if I feel that other people owe me because I know I won't ask for anything from them. But if I feel that I owe other people something, I don't know what they're going to ask for. And I'd rather not have other people in a position where they can call on me for favors. Um, I want to be in control of the favors because I won't ask for anything. And that's the natural order.
You know, it's so interesting you said that, because I have noticed that with a lot of not just ESFJs, but people with FE in general, especially higher up, you know, like ENFJ might also do the same thing where um, they'll do like a preemptive, like they'll buy you dinner preemptively, and deep down inside, I feel like what they're doing is they're stacking up favors. You know, it's like favor points that they've stacked up in the back end. You know, uh,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of manipulative, because I didn't ask for that dinner. They said it in such a good way, such a friendly way. It's like, oh yeah, I'll buy everyone dinner. But really, there's a calculative way there's a calculative reason why they did it. It
Yeah.
was stack up favors, in the back end, so that so it basically also the other thing I noticed too is that when you buy people dinner or lunch, you're in control of that social interaction now. Like no one can say anything bad about you because you're paying for it. So no one
Right.
can socially shame you or put you down. Do you say that's also like a defensive mechanism that is used with that sleep? I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is feminine FE savior, and I think that is masculine TI demon also,
Right.
because what I've noticed is the masculine TI demon plots, it schemes,
It does.
and it's like on the surface very flowery FE, but then underneath it's like I'm in control,
Right.
uh, in a very dark kind of way. It is manipulative, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, it is, and that's kind of scary. The masculine TI demon is not friendly. It plots and
Right.
schemes.
I think the interesting thing though is that double deciders are aware that you guys are doing it, but like but for us we're just like, okay, it's not a big deal, whatever.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
okay,
because
it's that like it's so us is like, yeah, okay, it's not a big deal. I don't care. You want to be in control, okay? I don't care. Like this is just whatever.
yeah, yeah, and so to some extent, like because I know that's happening, I try not to do it. Like there's so much that I could do
Yeah.
with just allowing the FE to take control. Uh, but I am so aware of how toxic it actually is that
Right.
most of the time in social situations, I don't really do much. I kind of just go with the flow, do what everybody else is doing, and I try to be a good friend if possible. And beyond that, I try not to steer the conversation too much because I know what the masculine TI demon is doing, and I don't want it to have its way. So
Right.
it's kind of weird in that way. It's kind of weird like that. That's why I thought I was play demon,
Yeah.
because I tend to like keep everything kind of on the down low.
Well, you have that, play and sleep in such a middle state. Like, like your play is double feminine, right? And then your sleep is double masculine. So even though your sleep is the one that is in a demon state, because your play is double feminine, it's almost like 51-49, in like the balance ratio. You're extremely balanced with those two,
Mm-hmm.
like you are like basically the most balanced when it goes to those two. Um, I also appreciate you being super honest about this. Talking about like, the dark side of the ESFJ.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this, for many years now. But you confirmed it for me when you told me what was happening and stuff, which is I really appreciate, because I think this is gonna help a lot of people. When it comes to dealing with their demons and also with their saviors, because it is a demon. Demon is, it's like it's dark, like you said, with a TI, right? And you're aware of it because you have double masculine sleep, which is super, super helpful. Um, so yeah, thank you, man. That's really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Uh,
no problem, man.
and so going back to the ST sleep again, I noticed some. So maybe this is more for IJs and and the EPs with the ST sleep, but maybe there's a little bit of it in you, because you seem to focus on the area where you're gonna buy someone dinner and it's more like favor points, or if someone helps you out help you with moving, then you'll buy them dinner after just to complete the loop. Like you don't owe them anything, right? So it seems to be people related. Now with the other people, like the ISFJs and ENTPs, for example, with like ST sleep in a saver state, they seem to be really obsessed with controlling money. Like money is like they're super cheap and they're really controlling with the money. Would you say there's a little bit of that with you? Are you frugal or are you not frugal? Would you say?
Uh, yeah, I'm very careful with money. I allow myself things that are basic human quality of life things. Like I'll
Right.
go get coffee. I'll get coffee. I'm not going to refuse to buy coffee, but I only buy coffee with friends because it's a social experience,
Right.
the coffee. Nobody likes this when I say it, but I took caffeine pills because they're cheaper.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they're way cheaper. It's like 10 cents per pill or something.
Yeah.
And when the one person I told that told me that it reeked of desperation. And I just thought that that was so accurate, because it's like, I need the caffeine. Like, I don't sleep much and I work a lot.
Yeah.
I need the caffeine and I need to not spend a lot of money. Why would I not do this weird
Right.
thing that other people don't like? Which that kind of feels like TI above FE, but it's also just like a necessity kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, I try not to spend a lot of money, but I don't really have a lot of money. So we'll see. We'll check back in when I have a real person job and I'm not working as a grad student for
Gotcha.
slave wages.
I like how you very much calculated that, you calculated, like, okay, caffeine pills cheaper, coffee only for social situations, not for when I'm by myself. Because I feel like if it was someone else, like someone that would SF consume, for example, or um, FI in general, they might just get the coffee just because it's not for the caffeine per se, it's for like the enjoyment of the coffee. For you,
Yeah,
it's a purpose, it's a use, it's a tool,
right.
um, but I also find it interesting that you have no problem buying people lunches, or dinners, and I think for you, you value that as a valuable expense. Like,
Yeah,
would you say that? Would you say that to be true? Like when you treat
yeah.
people, that's
Uh,
a legitimate expense.
yeah. It's worth it. I mean, what I would prefer is for people to just like take turns buying each other stuff,
Right.
without sort of keeping track of how much money is going in each direction, because it feels like I'll just cover you this time, great, and then you cover me next time, it's great. We don't have to worry about it. Uh, it feels like being, you know, excessively precise about the cost of things is just generally unfriendly.
Right.
So that's sort of where I'm coming from.
It's interesting you talk about that because I know somebody. I don't know if he's a ESFJ, but he does seem like he is extrovert feeling for sure. um, he was telling me a story. He was ranting about a person who he drove to some place and bought that person ice cream. And he was ranting to me how this person didn't even have the audacity to offer to pay for parking, So there's no Pharisees happening, right?
Yeah.
So, but then I was thinking about it and I was like, but you offered that guy. That guy didn't even like, he was okay with paying for the trip himself, right? But you put that upfront, I guess, favor trading that you could say.
Mhm.
So how do you respond to that, or like what's your opinion when it comes to that?
Yeah. I would say don't do favors for people expecting them to return it.
Right.
Uh, but especially if you haven't communicated it in any way.
Right.
Like, it's a favor. Not if people are just going to think that you're being nice.
Yeah.
They're not think. Yeah, it's also like, I don't know why this reminds me of this, but it's like some people expect you to apologize for things that you're not aware of,
Yeah.
and I think that also doesn't make sense,
Okay.
because if you've hurt somebody, you probably don't realize it, because if you knew it already, you'd have already said something about it, surely.
Right.
So like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, these kinds of things need to be communicated. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to get upset about them. And I find myself saying things like that often. Like, it doesn't make sense to get upset because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know if that's TI taking over, or if it's like there's some kind of emotional logic, where certain things, it makes sense to feel a certain way, and in other situations it does not make sense to feel that way. Maybe that's FE. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. You know, to be honest, I'm not against the whole favor trading thing. I think what bothers me about it though is when both parties don't get what they want. Like I'll give you an example. So let's say, because I think when you buy someone dinner, then the perception of the value of that dinner is lower or higher depending on who you bought the dinner for. You
Hmm.
know, like when people buy me dinner or lunch, I really perceive that as like low value, like 10 out of 100, let's say, right? But
Okay.
if someone helps me move, I perceive that as a high value thing. That's I would say that see that as like, 8 out of 10, for example, you know. So it's not as clear as like, hey, you know what? Um, I bought you lunch. We're even, and because I'm in my head, I'm like, no, we're not. That's not. That dinner means nothing to me. Like
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, we're getting into like that's like love languages. Uh,
Yeah, love
it's
language
like
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, for some people, gifts are like meaningless and worthless.
exactly.
Um, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Um, yeah, I guess maybe that's a good point actually because my primary love language is quality time. So when I spend the whole day with my friend helping them move, I don't see that as at work because
Right.
I'm spending time with them.
Right.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Uh, like I'd prefer to do that
Yeah.
because quality time. So maybe that has more to do with it.
Yeah. You're probably goofing off too, like partway through the moving, which is also fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like yeah, we'll just sit around for 20 minutes and just joke around. But
Yeah. Joke around. Yeah. Talk shit.
exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's yeah. I guess with us savior plays, like helping someone move is not the worst thing possible. It's more like yeah. I get to hang out with my buddies. What it's not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's interesting. Um. So in the classes, they say that people with TI, so I don't know if you saw the video with David Chan, they have like some kind of neighbor. I don't know if the neighbor was an ESFJ or ENFJ, but they said that this neighbor always like pisses them off because that neighbor's always trying to socially shame them. Um, and so they didn't know how to fight back for the longest amount of time until finally they figured it out. I'm like, oh, if you make them feel stupid, that's how you get them, and they'll back off. So that they attacked the TI, and the person never came back again.
Oh
Um,
my god.
so yeah, so how do you? So if someone were to attack your TI, like make you say something like, you're really stupid, or like just really attack your intelligence, your TI, how would you react to that? How would you feel? How would that impact you?
Yeah. I would react viscerally. It would be. It's. I mean, so I would say that this is the reason why I went into science in the first place is because I was afraid of people attacking my TI.
Right.
So explicitly, I remember this was the reason. I was studying music and in college, and then I remembered uh, that I like to identify as someone who knows how to think, and I was scared of going into a place where uh, I couldn't use the TI in any meaningful way. And I remember when I was a kid, my brother, I mean, innocently, when he was like 12 years old, used to run around and tell me how much smarter than me he was and like how stupid I was. And he'd like push me around and stuff.
Right.
He's TI savior. Um, and so I took offense to that. And I was like, I'll show you. I'll do you one better. I'll go into academia. And then so we ended up both going into physics, but he basically at that young age, I was like 6 years old. He was like playfully attacking my TI. I was like, never. This isn't happening. And
Right.
so I deliberately chose a career where no one could reasonably actually believe that I was stupid.
Yeah.
I'm okay with people, joking around and telling me I made a dumb decision or whatever,
Right.
because it's not like that I'm so insecure about it now because I've done something about the problem
Right.
by choosing this career, basically.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting, man. So joking around, you don't take offense. It's only when it's a blatant attack that definitely gets you.
Yeah, yeah.
What about character attacks? Would that like offend you, or that you would just slide off your shoulder? Like if someone were to call you a scum or like something like that, would that bug you, or it's
Mm,
kind of like whatever?
that one doesn't bug me so much, because in my mind, like I think this is part of having the ST sleep, the double masculine ST sleep. I think it's like I can see there's a lot of darkness in here,
Right.
and I I'm very aware of it, and so I know that the TI is cold, mechanical. It doesn't really care so much about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's very self-preservation oriented. It does what it has to. And so if people tell me that I'm scum, it's like, okay, fair. I'm trying my best here, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I'm trying my best to not be like outwardly a dickhead.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, I know.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. I love it. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what I like about objective personality is they said that the people who can best explain something like an animal or a function is someone that has it in a demon state because they had to learn how to use it so that they can explain it. I don't think anyone has ever explained ST sleep so perfectly until I interviewed you. So that is so good, dude. That is so good.
Hey,
Like,
thank you.
and I think definitely, dude. I don't say this lightly. You maybe it was by fluke because your brother was harassing you when you were a kid. But the fact that you went all in the TI is definitely served you very well. I think you're not gonna get the tidal waves that the typical, the EJs would just because you have, even though you did it in a defensive state, which I don't think is bad. I think as long as you do it, that's all that matters, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. Now, I do notice that I find it very interesting that character attack does not bother you. It's more intelligence attack because for me, if someone were to attack my intelligence, I would be like, okay, yeah, so I'm stupid. I don't care, But if someone were to attack my character, that's when I would like really get offended, right? Because I'm SF inside, right? I'm SF.
Yeah.
I'm double. I'm like you, except I'm double masculine SF sleep. So, um, we have our saviors, and demons kind of flip, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the one I would take offense. But if someone would call me a dumbass or an idiot, I'm like, oh yeah, sounds about right, like
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, it's got to be. Yes, it's the identity function. We don't
right,
want the identity function getting attacked. That's
right.
crazy.
Now I like how you use I like how you describe your ST sleep as mechanical. Why did you describe as mechanical? Because the ENFJs, for example, and individuals with the same function stack as them, they also have TI as their identity, but it's NT. So it's not ST, it's NT, right? So
Mhm.
ST is mechanical. Can you elaborate more on what makes it mechanical with that ST sleep?
Yeah, I mean, that one that's hard to explain. It feels mechanical. It's like, I mean, in my mind, when I'm doing the ST sleep thing, it's like there's no value statements going on. There's no valuing. There's no uh, connections. It's all just what are the facts? What is really happening? What did the person actually say? What does it actually mean? It's like get it down to the most fundamental truth of reality that we know. It's what actually happened and what does it really mean without any kind of biases, without any of my own feelings getting into it. Strip away all the human elements. It's all just what would a computer say about what happened. Um, and I'm getting like demon state very punchy because this is double masculine ST sleep. Uh, it's very much like remove all the human elements and what is left is reality. uh and that's what it feels like. That's why it's so kind of scary um to live in that state for too long.
Right, right. Because you stop being human essentially. You become a robot.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like Elon Musk, right? ST sleep first, and
Right.
and he has been accused of not being human. So I guess that's pretty much what's happening there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, pretty much. Like Mark Zuckerberg, everyone accuses him of not being a human either, right? So it's again, ST sleep savior, I guess. That's
Hmm.
that's that's when you start getting accused of being a robot because
Right.
you're just trying to get things done and you're trying to get things done your way, and you feel like your way is the best way, and which it could be. I mean, there's no doubting that those people like Elon Musk, for example, Bill Gates, all those guys, they're the top people. So obviously their way is the best way. So there is proof in the logic and in the facts that is true. So okay, that's super interesting, man. What about
Mhm.
your anti-consume? What would you say? So your anti-consume. So how do you? So before I go with my follow-up questions, how do you experience anti-consume? You have it last, but my gut feeling tells me you can use some of it. So
Yeah,
talk about it.
it was so I will say consume last was the most shocking part of my official typing. Because I have to do so much of it for my work. I don't, to be honest. A lot of my time is just trying to do anything I can not to have to read the papers. Um, and it also feels like there's not a lot of time left in the day to do the reading. Uh, it's like there's so many other things. I don't understand how people have time to sit and like watch lectures. I mean, but but that's just because I have so many other responsibilities. It's like I filled my life with a lot of other stuff so that I wouldn't have to do the consume. And it's like I can say, "Hey, everybody, look at all this stuff. This is what I'm doing." Don't ask about the consume though, because everything else is kind of on top. But the consume, it does come in bursts. Like here, maybe this will make sense. So when I had to study for a big exam recently for my program, I took about 2 weeks and I just did anti-consume all day, every day for 10 hours a day for 2 weeks. And I was able to learn everything that I needed to pass my exam. And I got really sick for 2 months.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, so that's kind of what it looks like. It's kind of like I have all these other like leadership responsibilities in the program, and I am in the lab all the time, and I'm trying to spend as much time with my friends as I can. And then at some point, it's like, okay, we need to really get caught up. And then so I just lock myself in my room, and I force myself to do nothing but read and take notes and try to understand until I make myself sick. Uh, and yeah, it's not great. In retrospect, uh, it's also interesting because this is how so I started to suspect that I had masculine sensory when I started uh, trying to learn by creating PowerPoints. And so if there's a lot of information that I need to know, I'll copy paste it into a PowerPoint, and then I'll start deleting things that I already know. And I'll just take away everything that I already know until all that's left in the PowerPoint is things I don't understand. And only then will I start to actually try to figure out what it means. Um, and I'll color code things and I'll bold things. I'll make certain things different sizes. And I was like, this looks like masculine SI. I'm like controlling the sensory really hard in order to make the consume work. Uh, and so the feminine NE, as a result, isn't great at absorbing a lot of information all at once. And it has to all be like very delimited, very specifically according to like a color code. Um, that being said, like this is advanced material. Like in school, I didn't struggle. Um, I didn't struggle at all. I think, and so I have to wonder if the NT consume is not responsible for learning in the way that we would typically think. Because either I'm doing a lot of consume without realizing it, which is how I got this far, or something else is also responsible for learning. Like I know Dave and Shan sometimes say you take in facts through your SI, and I'm curious to see how exactly that works. How do you learn through SI? Because it is a sensory function. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
I like how you made your PowerPoint pretty also before you can absorb it. So you like added some SF element to it
Yeah,
before you can absorb
right.
it, which is I think it's very hilarious. Um, and
Mhm.
I noticed people with so people with anti-consume, one of the questions they don't like people asking them is why. Like why? Like when you're trying to tell someone to do something and they get the question and say why. Why would that bother you? Is it like to provide reasons?
Mm, yeah, I mean, my first question is why what? If I'm saying this is the best way to do something, and the question is why, it's like, well, if I were to tell you why, that would mean explaining this whole ball of reasons. Uh, and so it's like, which part? Which part is it that you're asking about?
Or like if you say something
I
like
like specific questions.
like if they ask you like this is how we do things, and then I mean obviously not you don't have masculine FE, right? So maybe you don't do this as much as people with masculine FE. So maybe it's the wrong question to ask you. How do you feel about citing your sources? So if people question you about something that you're teaching them, and they want to maybe, do you feel like it's an attack on your intelligence, the fact that they can't take you at face value and they need to comb through your fact check your sources, you know?
Yeah, that does bug me sometimes. Um, Especially if it's happening like all the time.
Yeah,
Like if I'm explaining something that I actually feel that I'm an expert in, and people are just like constantly fact checking me,
yeah,
you know, that's, I mean, fine to some extent, like fine, because I know that some people need to see the sources for themselves.
right.
Um, I'm kind of one of those people also. Uh, some people just don't trust advice coming from a person; they have to see it. Um, my issue is more if you're doing that in front of other people. Like if we're doing that one on one, that's one thing, because it's like, okay, maybe I could brush up on this too. Let's go look it up together. That way, because I might be wrong. Two, I'd like to just make sure. Let's collaboratively go and figure this out, because you're saying there might be a question. Maybe you know something that I don't know. So let's go figure it out together. But like if that becomes a pattern uh, all the time in front of other people, then it starts to undermine your authority, and that's the real problem. Um, because as soon as one person starts undermining your authority, everybody else starts to question as well, even if the person is wrong. And that's just really annoying to have to deal with as a teacher. And so I've gotten a lot more authoritative in my teaching, and it also helps to just double check everything before you teach, just so that you can be certain that you can be very authoritative and shoot down the troublemakers.
The EPs.
The EPs.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
EPs.
exactly.
Causing chaos in your class and that don't control me
Right.
syndrome. Um, you know what? There's some truth to what you said though. Because if they fact check you, but it's one on one, it's because they actually want to learn. It's not because
Yeah.
if you do it in public, then it's more like it's more of a personal attack than the motive behind it is no longer learning. It's more like trying to make you look bad, right? But if they did
Mhm.
it, just let's say it's after the class ended, they come up to you, then you can tell this person seriously just wants to learn. They're not here trying to attack you, and so it becomes more of a collaborative experience than trying to shame you, I guess, in front of
Yeah.
the tribe, like I can only see like an INTP maybe trying to like attack you, like because they don't care, uh, you know.
Yeah. There have
Um,
definitely been some of those in our classes.
yeah, because they're lacking that social awareness, right? Because like
Mhm.
there might be people in the crowd who could be like, let's say an ENTP, and maybe they don't agree with what you're saying, but but they know it's also rude to call you out, in the middle of the class. So maybe they'll do it like after class. They'll talk to you, but like, yeah, maybe the INTPs they're just not socially aware of what's happening, and like what would motivate you to help them if they're constantly out to get you, right? So you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
that's why they get tribe hate, right? Is because they're not, taking the tribe spectrum into consideration, right? Um,
Exactly.
right. Okay, that's super interesting. Um, so with
Mhm.
what kind of problem would you have with connecting the logic with the anti-consume last? Would you say you have trouble connecting the logic of things in an abstract way, you know.
Mm.
Like, what do you have an example where it did happen where you're like, oh, you just had trouble like connecting the dots here, you know, of the reasons of why things were happening?
Yeah, I mean, I would say currently, I just I have a hard time. I mean, right now it's not exactly fair because I'm like I'm still like a new student in my lab, and it's like I feel like a 6-year-old trying to read Shakespeare, uh, because all this material is just super advanced, and it feels like everybody else understands. And I just, yeah, it really is hard. Like I I I gave myself a significant challenge, um, but apparently that was worth it for me. So I just have to grind my teeth and eat the glass, as Elon
I
Musk
got,
says.
yeah,
Stare into the abyss and eat glass.
yeah. Well, yeah, man. Well, I think your TI is definitely, you know, you can use it for sure. Masculine TI, double masculine sleep. Brother made fun of you, so like a lot of things were working in your favor. I think there's no better way to improve on something than when someone's like shitting on you. I think it's an opportunity which I think you grab, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about your sexual modalities. So
Yeah,
you
it's definitely
are,
like yeah.
sorry, yeah, finish your thought first, and then we'll.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, I didn't realize there was so much of a delay, but we can move on.
Yeah, so let's talk about you being auditory. Talk about, you know, do you learn best by hearing from sounds and whatnot? And do you tend to be pretty good? I guess do you have a good ear for music, I guess?
Yeah, so uh, I do have a good ear for music. I am so I played the violin from fourth grade to through high school, through senior year of high school. I think that's 9 years. Uh, Third grade. It was third grade through senior year, and I played the piano for a few years. I was in the choir for 5 years. You know, I did a lot of music, and I was a competitor. So I went to districts and state uh, vocal competition in high school. That was really fun, and yeah, I feel like that one is really unique because it's it's so much. Singing is so visceral in it's like a full body experience, um, or it feels like one. Uh, so that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. That got me through high school, actually. Choir did, and I definitely do think that I learn best through audio. I didn't do a lot of reading for fun. I was always kind of worried that I was not somebody who did a lot of reading for fun because I was under the impression that smart people do a lot of reading for fun, because reading books is like super cool, I guess. But I just never did it. Um, I guess should have been evidence of consume last, because I always have other stuff to do besides read. Um, and now that Audible is a thing, I can listen to an entire book. Uh, this interview is not sponsored by Audible. I can listen to an entire book in like 2 days, and it's like I could, if I tried to read the book, the physical book, it would have taken me weeks, and so I can consume way more in the same amount of time, if I am listening. And also, I don't know how normal this is. Maybe it's perfectly normal, but when I'm having a really uh, when I'm having a conversation, if I zoned out for a second and I missed what they said, my hearing still remembers. So there's like a buffer. There's like an audio buffer of a few
Yeah,
seconds. I can go back and kind of re-listen to what they said. I don't know if that's normal, but I actually rely on that quite a lot.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's absolutely essential.
I love how you mentioned that because I totally do that too, being an
uh-huh.
auditory. Because I have consumed Demon, not last, it's Demon though. I am info dominant, so that helps me
Uh-huh.
a lot of ways. But there are times when I am interviewing someone, and for some reason, like I thought of something completely unrelated to the interview, and then I got like stuck in like a rabbit hole somewhere, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in like in the middle of the interview. Like, let's go back. And I do remember like there is that audio buffer that I didn't even know. I didn't have a word to explain it, but I guess you explained it perfectly. Where, oh, so that's what's happening. That's how I'm able to recall what they said, even though I zoned out there for a second. That's really good, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You are also so before
Yeah,
I
that's awesome.
so before I go to the kinesthetic question, I just want to bring up you being a double observer. So you're balanced with gathering and with organizing, and you're also balanced with control and chaos. Um, when you talked about like right now you're all in kind of like the science field, right? But you balance it also with like a right brain thing, which is music. Um, so I can see that as a good example also as like double observer. Like you didn't go all in just like one. You kind of you did both, and as a result, you like you said, it got you through high school, right? Because you're doing your demons. There's no way you can do your demons all the time and stay sane, right? So the music kept you normal. Otherwise you would have been I don't know, like a
Mhm.
crazy person, right? Uh, so talk about that. Talk about like double observing. Being balanced with those two coins.
Yeah. So that so one thing may be interesting is that sort of I've struggled in the past with distinguishing fiction from reality in some senses. Um, I guess I at one point assumed that this was like a single observer thing, that it was like sensory demon, that I'm like imagining a lot of scenarios that aren't real and sort of taking filling in the blanks a bit too much. But what it feels like is I'm definitely responsible. I'm clearly responsible for keeping the sensory in order. But then if I don't know something, uh, and it's important for me to understand it, my brain just it does not mind filling in the blanks, and it will fill in the blanks with whatever I think is most likely. And sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes it gets me into trouble because if I fill in the blanks with something that is not right, uh, and then I act on that, it's a huge problem. So I guess that's sort of the demon feminine NE is just like, throw anything in there, throw anything into the sensory to make it all tie together.
Right.
Just loop it together with like dental floss.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like kind of fast and loose in a sense,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. Um, yeah, in terms of the balance between control and chaos, I would definitely say that that's true because, like, I have a cat who is really energetic and he is just a chaos monkey, and he he knocks stuff over. He finds a new thing to destroy every week, and I imagine if I were, say, lead SI, that would just freak me out to no end,
Right.
because it's like, come on, cat, like I velcroed your water bowl to the ground so that you couldn't knock it over and spill water everywhere,
Yeah.
and then you found a way to open and close the doors. He can literally close the doors. He can lock himself in my bedroom, and then not be able to get to his litter box. And it's like every week there's some new weird thing that he figured out how to do. And the other day he took a bite out of my TV. There's literally a bite mark out of my TV. And it's like, okay, fine. Like, the chaos is happening. Let's just, I'll move the bookcase so he can't bite the TV. I'll Velcro the water bowl so he can't knock that over. Big deal. Um, uh, it's like, yeah, the chaos is coming. Big deal. Who cares?
Yeah. You're so calm with that.
And I
That's
can still
awesome.
laugh about it.
Yeah. Uh, you are kinesthetic. How are you with the movements and exercise? Would you say do you go to the gym? Do you work out? Are you good with doing things with your hands? How do you experience kinesthetic?
Yeah. So I like to go hiking. I live here in Utah. There's a lot of mountains. They're really awesome. So I came here specifically because I wanted to do a lot of stuff in the mountains, and I love going hiking and skiing, and I go mountain biking and backpacking. Yeah, a lot of that stuff. Like I love being out there. It's awesome. However, I don't have SE, and so my my kinesthetics is it. I've started noticing this. It feels rigid. It feels like I don't know how to walk. It feels like my body is just like made of steel rods, uh, and I have to just kind of very carefully avoid knocking things over. It's like I'm a robot, and I have to not destroy. I have to not smash. And it's like at my work, we're working with very delicate lenses, microscopes, mirrors, and it's like I kind of just want to jump around, and I do jump around, and if I'm not careful, I will break things. Um, and so, yeah, I just have to be kind of careful. I have to be very careful. Also, this is probably unrelated, but my hands have been very shaky for my entire life
Yeah.
because of some kind of neurological disorder of some kind.
Yeah.
Um, and that's made me especially careful, because if I am not very careful, I will break things and I will knock them over. So yeah, that's it. It's weird. Maybe that's like SI, masculine SI versus SE. It's like, want to smash but mustn't.
Yeah, you know what, man? I have shaky hands too, and I have mask. I have masculine SI like you, so I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like I'm looking at my
Mhm.
hands, it's shaky. So I'm like, I don't even drink caffeine too, so it's not coffee related.
Yeah,
So yeah, that is weird. That's a good that's a weird indicator of masculine SI, shaky hands. I don't know if that's
yeah,
how true that is, but that is interesting.
yeah. That
Uh,
would be interesting.
yeah, I'm gonna start asking people that. Like, oh, you're masculine SI. Do you have shaky hands? um, so your energy dominant. Talk about that being balanced with expending energy and then um, conserving energy.
Yeah, uh, yeah. So that's really balanced. I would say that's extremely balanced. And so, uh, for instance, school is a school, university, my program, it's all just like high energy output all the time. You know, work 12-hour days and then sleep all weekend, kind of stuff. And then, uh, yeah, I've always just been like totally fine with working insane hours and then just vegging out for a month. And when I have the time to relax, I totally will take advantage of that. No problem.
Wow.
And but then if duty calls and it's time to work some 12-hour days, bring it on. Like, let's go. How long do I have to do it?
Right.
Um, just give me a week at the end to relax and unwind. Yeah, that's always been the case. I'd say.
I think that's a difference between our functions or animal stack because I'm info dominant and I have sleep last, right? So the way you describe yours is that yes, you'll do the 12-hour days, which I also do. Um, yeah, I will, take a day off during the weekend to relax, but you'll take the full weekend. You'll take like, both Saturday and Sunday. So
Mm,
you are respecting the weekend as a weekend, which is time to relax, not time to work, but time to relax. And when you do get a full month to relax, you take it. You take it. If someone gives me a full month to relax, I don't take it. I work. I find something to do. So
yep.
I think that is the true definition of someone, especially with your animal stack, especially the blast play, which is going to be like super energetic on the front end, but we're still respecting the rest time in the back end.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, because I don't respect the back end rest time, it's not there. Like I'm working on it, but it's not like the way you describe it. The way you describe it sounds like the way you should do it, especially for both of us who are, you know, crackhead. We're like crackheads supposedly, right? You're blast play and play blast. We're the crackhead type, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and there is some benefit to our type though. Like the biggest benefit I can see that we both share is you're sleep consumed and I'm consumed sleep at the back end. So in a way, even though I have sleep loss, processing my emotions is something that I'm able to do because I can go deep dive on the introversion world. So can you.
Mm.
Sleep consumed for you though. It's a little bit in a different order. Um, so it's kind of interesting because when Dave typed me, he said that it looks like you have 50% use of your sleep last, which is great. Um, they said that you still have 50% to go. I'm like, okay, good to know where I am. It's always good to know where you're at, right? So you know how much work you need to work on. Um, so for me, what I learned about sleep is you can use sleep to set boundaries with a tribe, um, and to preserve energy and to process your deep inner world. So the part I didn't ask you about yet for your sleep is, do you set boundaries with people?
That's really hard. Uh, Setting boundaries is hard. I This is one of the most difficult things for me to do, actually. Um, I'm pretty weird about boundaries. I usually the way I approach boundaries is I generally choose to spend my time around people who will set them for me, uh, by being more in touch with their own boundaries. So um, because if people let me, if I want to spend a lot of time with somebody and they don't stop me, I'll just like take over their life. Uh, and so I prefer to hang around with people who are able to say like, hang on a minute, I have other friends, stop. Um, because then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's where that boundary is supposed to be. And then we'll just leave it there. It's fine. Um, yeah, that's really hard. It's really hard for me. I'm learning how to do that currently, actually.
You don't do the excuse making route. So I know some people who are like EJ with FE, and in my own life, I know one guy. His way of setting boundaries when he doesn't want to do something is he'll tell us, "Oh, I need to have dinner with my parents." I know
Mhm.
he's full of crap. I know he would stay if this is something he wanted to do, but it's his like card that he'll always bring out, that, oh, I need to have dinner with my family. It's always conveniently out when the moment he doesn't want to do something, and it's obvious.
Uh,
I'm like, why don't you just tell us you don't want to do this? We're cool with it, you know. So
yeah,
have you ever done that before? Like you took in like I have a responsibility to other people card to get away from a situation that you don't want to do.
yeah. Sometimes I prefer to do that over text because I don't feel like I'm a very good liar.
I see.
Uh, so if it's over text and I can say like I'm in the middle of something else, I do that very rarely though. Usually if there's something that I don't want to do, I'll just kind of freeze and disappear. Um, which is why I thought I was blast last, because that's supposed to be what the blast lasts are doing. Is they'll just not respond to you and they'll just fall off the face of the earth.
Right.
Um, and that's what I do if I'm trying to set a boundary and I don't know how to say it. I'll just disappear. Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, I should probably do more of the excuse thing, except that I don't like to lie necessarily.
Yeah.
So that would be hard for me.
Well, I think the non-lying thing is good. I think in the long run, especially if you were just honest about it, I think people would respect you more. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't
Mhm.
respect my friend for doing that stupid. I have to go eat dinner with my family card. That's so dumb, right? Especially if everyone knows what he's doing. Um,
Right.
what the do you think it's your masculine TI that makes you not want to lie? Like the truth must be respected. It's solid.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it could also be. Uh, yeah, I mean, masculine TI. Uh, I've seen this in other people who are feminine FE savior. Is that they don't like to lie to people directly. Um, it must somehow be like I'm not responsible for telling you the whole truth, but if you ask me the truth, I have to respect it. Which is it opens up the possibility for lies of omission. Uh, and so the answer to that is to overshare as much as possible so that there's no chance to commit a lie of omission. And yeah, a lot of people tell me that I'm very honest and open, and I think it's because I err on the side of oversharing as opposed to undersharing.
I guess if you just spit out all the information, then there's no questions to be asked, right? It's like
Yeah,
all bases are covered.
exactly.
All right, Isaac, I have a few more questions and we'll wrap up the interview. One of them
Mhm.
is you not being info dominant. So have you ever been caught with your pants down because you blasted something but you forgot to fact check first, with the consume?
Yeah, that happens. That happens in my when I'm teaching sometimes. That happened this morning, in fact.
Okay.
I was teaching my class, and I couldn't be bothered to like completely fact check my understanding of this concept,
Yeah.
and the professor had not made the solutions for the thing that we were supposed to be teaching. So it was like, okay, I have 2 minutes before my class begins, and I have this thing that I'm supposed to teach them that I don't understand, and there's no solution manual. Oh shit, what am I going to do? And then so I just blast played my way through it. Like, people say you can't just blast play your way through everything. I beg to differ. Because if you, I beg to differ because I just explained as much as I could explain, and then I was like, all right, with those hints, go ahead and get started. And then I went in the back with my helpers, my undergrad helpers, and we like figured it all out together.
Yeah.
So we blast played it out. So yeah, no big deal. I'm not drunk on my saviors. Who said that?
Oh man, it's so messed up how true to what you said is. Like you can get away with blast playing things a lot of times, be, be,
Yeah,
because because even if you get caught not having the information, the fact that like they need time to process what you said buys you time to go get that information right after you finish. So by the time they come back to ask you,
right.
you're like, oh my god, there we go, like just in the nick of time, like just
Hmm.
um. So
Yeah, I love that. That's hilarious.
yeah, I think I'm lucky because I do have to consume before, like I'm info dominant because I have noticed that many times I was ready to play blast, and and then I'm like, wait, just in case, let's go just a quick glance. And many times I've saved myself from tripping, like getting my pants pulled down essentially, and I'm like, oh my god, I would have totally made an ass of myself, like and then just fix it real quick. So it
Yeah,
does help. But where I get in trouble is that play blast, I'm not preserving my energy at the back end, kind of like you veg out when you get the chance, which um, it's important because you can't be blast play or play blast all the time. That's gonna kill you like physically, right?
yeah, exactly.
Um, all right, dude. So last two questions and then we're done. So first one is, what advice can you give to fellow, ESFJs or similar animal stack as you, ISFJ, ENTP, or INTP, that do have consume last, anti-consume specifically? How can they work on that anti-consume better so that you don't get caught with your pants down? Essentially.
Mm,
Basically,
yeah,
give an
okay.
advice you would give to yourself.
And yeah, okay. Advice that I would give to myself. Oh, I live alone, and that is a necessity. I would say that when you are like a crackhead, uh, you may notice that when you are away from the people that you care about, you get a little bit more reserved, and that is the environment that you need in order to do the consume and the sleep. So if you just create a space where you have to be in that space and no one's going to talk to you, the consumed sleep will follow more naturally. So I cannot have roommates because when I have roommates, I will just go and try to get involved in what they're doing, and to the point where I neglect my other responsibilities. So if that's you, maybe you have to live alone. Uh, and that's kind of sad, but I don't know. Maybe if you can find another way, let me know because this is essential for me.
Do you like living alone?
I do. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Because I get to see the people that I want to see when I get to see them, and I can just have ownership of this space. And it's nice to have a space where I can bring people over, and I don't have to worry about like, am I going to be too loud for this roommate who's sleeping in the other room? Because I would be hypersensitive of that. Like, I can't have the TV on too loud, or we can't laugh too loud because it's going to wake up my roommate. Not when you're not when you live alone. You have a lot more freedom.
I completely agree with you because I've lived by myself before. I live with my girlfriend now, but I did notice that I felt more refreshed when I was 100% alone. There was something about it that I think when you're play blast or blast play, you do need that pure isolation to do your consume sleep or sleep consume in the back end. So totally, that's why for me the pandemic is a little bit is a little bit more challenging. But completely agree with you. However, with that being said, what if you know end up dating in the future and you live together? How would that affect you? You know?
I mean, I tried living with my girlfriend of years ago. I tried living with her for about a week,
Yeah.
and it was okay. We after a few days, we kind of fell into a more organic sort of groove where it was like we didn't really uh, we didn't really ping off of each other so often. It sort of we calmed down a little bit more. But I think I would still need like an office or something, because if I'm in a room with somebody and they say something or do something, I have to listen. Like I can't tune people out either. If people are talking on the phone, I can't tune it out. I can't tune it out unless I have earplugs. Unless I'm blasting music, I will hear every word and I will be listening, even if I'm trying not to. So I don't know if that's audio. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I can't not hear what other people are saying in the room with me. So I would need to be away from that.
Oh man, I 100% relate. I hate that so much. I think it's Savior Play audio. I think. Um, man, I hear every word. I don't want to hear it. Like I literally do not want to hear it. Like when people are talking on the phone. You know what I even hate the most is sitcoms. Like hearing sitcom in the background. I hear every word that's happening. Like to my girlfriend, it's background noise, right? I'm like, no, it's not background noise to me. I hear every word. It's annoying. You know, I'm trying to focus on something. I can't. I hear every single word, and it's definitely play savior in audio. I think that's what's happening for us. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. That's good to know because I didn't realize I didn't realize that that could be related to type. That's really good. I'll start looking for that.
Yeah, so I think yeah, when you meet someone that's a fellow play savior audio, I think yeah they're gonna have the same problem as you.
Mhm.
They'll totally relate with you, you know. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I can't have anything on as white noise. Nothing is background noise. Yeah,
no background noise. Background noise is the worst. Like it's not a background noise. I hear it, you know.
yeah.
Um, last question for you is, do you have any question for me before we wrap this interview?
Ooh, that's a good question. What do you do? What do you do for a living?
Oh, I work in the fitness industry. I'm a personal trainer.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you yeah, I mean, what would you recommend what's your favorite thing on Netflix?
I don't watch Netflix. I watch Disney Plus. So
Disney Plus. Okay. What's your favorite thing on that?
my favorite show there was it's the MCU stuff like WandaVision or Agents of Shield. Those were the best ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good to know.
Those are what I really got sucked into a rabbit hole when I saw it.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard good things about those from other people as well, so that's good.
I think Agents of Shield especially is underrated. Like it doesn't look very good, but when you start watching it, it's like it's very SI the way they built it because what the backstory the character building from the first season has is just further enhanced in the second, third, and whatnot season.
Hmm.
So definitely worth checking out. All right, Isaac, man, thanks for doing this interview. I loved it. This you know what, honestly, this is one of the best interviews I've ever done. Lots of insights from that ST sleep from an ESFJ. That is gold. That's pure gold. I'm getting ready to do a video on ST sleep, and I think you just validated a lot of things that I needed confirmation from. So, um, thanks a lot, dude. Really appreciate that, and thanks for coming out here. We need more EJs ESFJ specifically to represent. And I think that the fact that you were brave enough to come here and do this interview, that's great. A lot of ESFJs are scared to do the interviews. So the fact that you did it, hey man, that is like pure gold. That's so awesome of you. So yeah, man, take care, and we'll see you around the Facebook group.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too, man.